His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, नाम आचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन धाम की जाय। ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की जाय। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जाय। गंगा माई की जाय। यमुना माई की जाय। भक्ति देवी की जाय। तुलसी देवी की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Gaur Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining for our daily Srimad Bhagavatam study here at ISKCON of Philadelphia. We are reading, studying, and discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, titled Purusha Suktam, text number 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
I'll recite the shloka 3 times, and whoever is interested can also try to recite the shloka. Parabhuter adharmasya tamasaschapi paschima nadyo nada nadinam cha gotranam asti samhati. Parabhuter adharmasya tamasaschapi paschima nadyo nada nadinam cha gotranam asti samhati. Parabhuter adharmasya tamasaschapi paschima nadyo nada nadinam cha gotranam asti samhati. Please recite.
Hare Krishna. Parabhuter adharmasya tamsaschapi pashimaha nadyo nadinamacha gotranam asti samhatihi.
Hare Krishna. Parambhute dharmasya tamasachapi paschima najanadinam cha gatranam asti sambhati.
Hare Krishna. Parabhuter adharmasya tamasaschapi paschimaha nadyo nada nadinam cha gotranam asti samhatihi. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll read the synonyms. Parabhutihi, of frustration, adharmasya, of immorality, tamasaha, of ignorance, cha, and api, as also, paschima, the back, nadya, of the intestines, nada, of the great rivers, nadinam, of the rivulets, cha also, gotranam of the mountains, asti bones, samhatihi accumulation. Translation: the back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance, as well as for immorality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains. Purport: in order to defy the impersonal conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a systematic analysis of the physiological and anatomical constitution of his transcendental body is given here. It is clear from the available description of the body of the Lord, his universal form, that the form of the Lord is distinct from the forms of ordinary mundane conception. In any case, he is never a formless void. Ignorance is the back of the Lord, and therefore the ignorance of the less intelligent class of men is also not separate from his bodily conception. Since his body is the complete whole of everything that be, one cannot assert that he is impersonal only. On the contrary, the perfect description of the Lord holds that he is both impersonal and personal simultaneously. The personality of Godhead is the original feature of the Lord, and his impersonal emanation is but the reflection of his transcendental body. Those who are fortunate enough to have a view of the Lord from the front can realize his personal feature, whereas those who are frustrated and are thus kept on the ignorance side of the Lord, or in other words, those who have the view of the Lord from the back, realize him in his impersonal feature. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sabdantikam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining for our daily Srimad Bhagavatam study here at ISKCON of Philadelphia. And I'm very grateful for giving me the opportunity to speak from Srimad Bhagavatam, primarily for my own purification. And I seek all of your blessings and permission so I can try to repeat what I have heard. So this chapter, Purusha Suktim, this is the 10th text of this chapter. I'll just read the translation quickly again. The back of the Lord is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance, as well as for immorality. From his veins flow the great rivers and rivulets, and his bones are stacked, and on his bones are stacked the great mountains. Yes. So who is speaking here? Any guesses?
Is it Narada?
Yes, thank you. So Narada, not Narada, Brahma. So Brahma is speaking to Narada. Yeah. If you remember, it is Narada who asks all these questions for the benefit of all of us. So Brahma is answering the questions about the creation. And he is specifically discussing about the universal form of the Lord and how everything has emanated. And here we are continuing the description of the universal form of the Lord. Yeah. And specifically, the chapter begins with describing the opulences of the universal form of the Lord. Yeah. Because the different parts of the universal form of the Lord are the generating centers for everything that be. Yeah. So since the form of the Lord is transcendental to the material creation, so all this, the voice, the tongue, the skin, everything suggests, in one sense, if we carefully understand, Prabhupada actually in this purport is emphasizing or is discussing about is the Lord personal or impersonal? And the whole idea, everything started here with this description was why? Because most people consider Lord to be formless. So, for those materialistic people to get that personal conception of the Lord, this universal form is described, right? So, here it is said, back of the Lord, Paschima, where that is the place for all kinds of frustration and ignorance. And the translation says, as well as immorality. Parabhutir adharmasya. Yeah, adharma is immoral. Yeah, parabhutir adharmasya. And from his veins, Nadyo, flow the great rivers and rivulets, Nadinam, Nada and Nadinam. And on his bones, Astha Samhita, what are stacked? The great mountains, it is said. Gotranam means the mountains. So, see, basically, the concept is that, and which most of you are aware, the basic concept is that Krishna, by his Shakti or by his energies, he expands and pervades this whole world. So, with this basic concept, we can understand that this whole world is connected to him. So, that way we can meditate on this world by meditating in connection with the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So, the reality is that this material world is connected to Krishna. And when we meditate this way, what happens, especially of course, it is discussed here many times. Prabhupada writes for the people who are grossly materialistic or atheistic. But the conditioned soul in general, by this type of meditation, where he sees everything in this world in connection to Krishna, what happens? That conditioned soul gradually becomes purified. Of what? Of materialistic and impersonal tendencies, right? See, if you study the Shastras carefully under the guidance of a bona fide guru, and then you see this creation, you see Krishna in the material world everywhere. You can see Krishna's energies everywhere. You can see the three modes of material nature everywhere. Not I know. Yes, theoretically, we can say, it's not relevant to me, this universal form of the Lord. No. Oh, I just want to meditate on the gopis. I want to meditate in Vrindavan. But the reality is, we are living in this materialistic world, in this, in the urban cities. So it's not always practically possible for us to 24 by 7 meditate on those, on the gopis or on Vrindavan. So the point is, we need to have the right consciousness. We need to see the truth. And truth is everything in relation to Krishna. And we apply whatever we learn, then what happens? When you apply whatever you learn, what happens? That's what you will see everywhere, right? It becomes your vision. When you apply whatever you have read and heard, that becomes your vision. Then you see Krishna everywhere. You see everything in relation to Krishna. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described that the Virat Rupa is imaginary form. And as I mentioned earlier, and that it is for materialists to get used to to the fact that God has a form, right? And Prabhupada, in that first canto, in the first canto gives wonderful examples. Like, you know, you can identify something by its external cover, right? For example, let's say a car rides by with a lot of security in the front and back, and many cars in the front and back, and you see that car. Oh, by the external appearance, you can see maybe it's a presidential car, the glass is tinted, and so many externals tell you, even though you may not be able to see the person inside, but based on the externals, you will conclude, oh, that's the president going. Yes or no? By externals, a lot of times we identify many things, right? You all agree?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So we can identify he or she is the president. And the whole point is we identify the person with external cover. Same time, we are meditating on that person, right? Oh, that's the president, right? We are identify everything with the externals, but we are meditating same time on that person. Yes, you all agree?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So Srimad Bhagavatam also describes just like air is dirty, you identify something with external cover. Same way, one can identify the Supreme Lord with the external covering, which is this material world. Of course, on the same token, yeah, remember that it is simultaneously one and different, right? The achintya beda beda. You can meditate on the Lord's form by meditating on the material nature, by relating it to the Lord. This way, what happens? It helps us, conditioned living entities, to become more personal and devotional. We become more personal. We see everything. Oh, it will remind us of the Lord. Even the ordinary things can become extraordinary and make us divine. I was in Rishikesh, just giving an example, looking at those beautiful mountains and the Ganges, yeah, so divine, devotional. Yeah, it reminds us when we look it through the eyes of Guru and Shastra, then we will see. Yeah, or let's say there's a beautiful flower in the garden. Yeah, earlier I may be just thinking, oh, beautiful flower, let me pluck. And then the next thing we do is what? Yes. See a beautiful flower, you pluck it. And the next thing you want to do is what?
Smell it.
Smell it. Yes. Yeah. But when you read and hear from the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, then you see, wow, it's a beautiful flower, creation of the Lord. It is the vibhuti of the Lord. It is the potency of the Lord. See how we see things differently before and after reading and hearing? Yeah. So when you see all this, the Gotranam, the mountains, the oceans, the rivers, everything material nature, we can connect with the Lord. We can understand the Lord. We can appreciate, and it will help us to develop a relationship with the Lord. Yeah. So this whole Virat Rupa conception is to help us to understand God. It will gradually make us spiritual. It will help us to develop symptoms for love of God. And that is what is the first step in the God realization. The first chapter is also that, right, of this second canto. The first step in God realization for people who are on the material platform is what? To see this, to understand how we connect this creation to the Lord. Yeah. See, we are all directly, indirectly searching for the absolute truth, Krishna. And then there are certain regulative principles, certain regulations are there. See, the goal is in one sense easy. I can just say, hey, chant Hare Krishna. But we have to cultivate a few things to chant Hare Krishna, right? Yeah, it's just I say, somebody tells me, hey, Prananath, just cook for the deities. Of course, now maybe with little understanding I might, but for a person who does not have proper understanding, if you just tell him, cook for the deities and chant Hare Krishna, simple, right? Imagine I had no philosophy, no understanding, nothing. I'm talking about a conditioned living entity like me. What will happen if somebody just tells me, cook for the deities all day and chant Hare Krishna? Imagine that was the only thing I was told. What will happen? Do you think my mind will accept it? What do you think will happen if that was what you heard? The first thing you heard was that, and you had no philosophy, no understanding. If there's no background or no knowledge, what would happen if somebody gave you that instruction? What do you think?
I think we will not believe it.
Huh?
We will not believe it. that we,
Ah, okay. Yes. So, I see Dronacharya Prabhu also unmuted. Please, Prabhu.
It'll be short-lived. You may have some enthusiasm for maybe, one day, or maybe you'll think, okay, I'm coming to help out and do something, but then there won't be much feeling. There won't be an understanding of what you're doing. You'll just think, okay, I'm just coming to help and do something.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Exactly. One day, 2 days, 3 days, yes, some enthusiasm. And then the immediately mind will start asking, why only me? Why I am always asked to do this service? Her mind will start asking all kinds of questions because there is no background of knowledge. So the point I'm trying to make is we need to cultivate some knowledge to be fixed on that specific duty of chanting Hare Krishna. Yeah, and focusing on Krishna. Yeah, like you see, Sukadev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, right? Uh, he had 7 days. He explained everything else. Ultimately, why? To help in the duty of chanting Hare Krishna and focusing the mind on Krishna. Yeah, on focusing the mind on Krishna. So by following these strict regulations and understanding and applying this in our life, then the realizations can come by following strictly. Yeah. See, just like when water is mixed with something else, can we get the taste of water? What do you think?
Depends on how much the ratio is.
Yeah, but still, you won't get the real taste of water, right? Even
Right.
if there's 1%, 5%, 10% sugar added, you won't get the real taste. But when it's not mixed with anything, you get the real taste, real taste. So that real taste or ruchi comes after nishtha. So when we become firm, so we need this proper understanding and knowledge. So we can help uh, in our duty of chanting the Hare Krishna and focusing our mind on Krishna. Yeah. And in the purport here, Prabhupada, so the whole point here is gradually to get people to that personal conception of the Lord. And you see, in the purport, Prabhupada elaborately explains about the personal versus impersonal. He's providing a wonderful description of the Lord and answers this question. Is the Lord personal or is he impersonal? So if there was a multiple choice question, the Lord is A, personal, B, impersonal, C, both, D, none of the above. What would the answer be?
I would say C, both. He can be
Yes,
impersonal, he can be personal.
yes. Prabhupada writes this in the purport. Yes. So he begins with saying the Lord's form is different from the mundane conception. Like a lot of times, majority of the people, especially the Mayavardis or the Smarthas, who think that the Lord, the absolute truth is impersonal, they think that the Lord, when he appears, he has a material form. He's an ordinary living and he's an ordinary human being like you and me. Uh, in spite of so many references, so many Shastric references are there. Okay, if he has a if he is a human being just like you and me, ordinary human being like you and me, come on, can all of us show Virat Rupa form? Or anybody who claims God, can he show a Virat Rupa? Now, how come we cannot? And how come, if he is just has a material form like you and me, how come we don't remember our past? We hardly know what is going to happen, even with our present, forget about the future. But how come he knows past, present, and future? And he tells Arjuna, hey, many, many millions of years, many, many millions of times, you have taken birth and I have appeared. You don't remember anything, but I remember everything. So, Prabhupada is explaining here that, the Lord's form is different. More majority of the people in this world either think Lord is formless or they have some mundane conception, material conception, because that's all a majority of the people identify with, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, the main focus here is Lord personal or impersonal. Of course, we know, but that he is both, and we'll discuss about this. And this is also a big topic, a subject of raging controversy for many, many decades or centuries. Yeah. So, especially Mayavadis and Smarthas, yeah, although they are part of Sanatan Dharma, but they believe that originally God is formless and qualityless. Yeah. We can see how gradually, both with logic and with Vedic Shastric evidences, we can prove that Lord is both originally both formless and personal. Yeah, and Prabhupada gives references here. See, God means, by definition, God means He is the cause of all causes, or He is the origin of everything. Right? And Prabhupada refers to the Brahma Samhita 5.1. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadhiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Right? Anadhiradir is the beginning, he is the origin. And he is Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes and is the origin of everything. Yeah. And that Lord, that Supreme Lord, is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha means he has a form. And that form is what? Is it a material form like yours and mine? No, it is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Sat means it is eternal. Chit means it's full of knowledge. Yeah, and Ananda, it is blissful. Yeah, and that Lord Govinda is the Sarvakarana Karana. Yeah, and even in the Bhagavatam, right up front in the beginning, first canto, first chapter, first verse, it establishes Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yato Anvayaditas Charteshva Abhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye yeah. So that Lord, that the son of Vasudev is the absolute truth. He is a person. He is the cause of everything. He is the source of everything. Yeah. So then the question comes up, if he is the cause and source of everything, then don't you think whatever attributes we see in this creation, that he should also possess them? You follow me? If he is the origin and cause of everything, of all the attributes that you see, like if you are a person, I am a person, other living entities are individual beings, then don't you think he is also a person? Yes. Otherwise, if he does not possess anything that is there in the creation, any of these essential attributes that are there in the creation, then that means he is lesser than the creation. You follow me, right? If he does not have any of these, the comparison here is about the formless and the personal form of the Lord. If he does not possess any of these essential attributes, that makes him lesser than his own creation. Yes? You all agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So, in this world, there exist both personal beings and impersonal forces. And both these aspects should be present in God. If God were not a person, then, Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada, then how can he be complete? He would be incomplete because we are all persons. If he is not a person, then right there he is incomplete. He cannot be complete. Then how is God complete? Yeah. So a simpler, as I said, you are a person, I am a person, even a butterfly is a person, every living entity is a person. When all of us are persons, then how can God, that one from whom all of us have originated, not be a person? Right? Like I am a person, my father is a person, his father is a person, his father is also a person, then how can Supreme Father not be a person? Yeah. So to say that God is not a person or he does not have personal attributes is in one sense actually limiting him. And the Lord is unlimited. And this is described in many places, in many of the Upanishads. Yeah. And it says, he who has no rival, in the Svetasvatara Upanishad, it says, he who has no rival creates the varieties of this world using in his own potencies according to his own wish. And Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. The Supreme has many potencies. So he has many potencies, and by his own wish, he creates the varieties of this world. So now we can ask, so by his own wish, this is what the Shastras are saying. But if somebody says, well, no, he's formless, now the question is, how can a formless, qualityless entity think and act? Is it possible? If somebody is formless and has no attributes, no qualities, can he think and can he act? What do you think? No, no. So by definition, God is perfect and complete. Being the complete whole, he must contain everything both within and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. Therefore, to be complete, and this is the point, to be complete, he must be both personal and impersonal. Yeah. So I'll repeat this. He must contain everything both within our experience and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. And therefore, he must be both personal and impersonal to be perfect and complete. Yes? And many references are given in the Bhagavad Gita also, right? That the Lord is witnessing as a like there are a tree of two birds. One is the living entity and other is Paramatma. The Lord is seated in the heart of every living entity as a witness. He's watching all the activities of the living entity, right? And even in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we read and heard, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati, right? Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Mayaya. This Supreme Lord, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, is situated in all the living entities, Sarva Bhutanam, where Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. He is situated and he is directing the wanderings of all the living entities. Right? So that's how he He's all pervading. He's present everywhere. He's present in the atoms. He's present in the hearts of all the living entities, and he's a witness of that living entity. Yeah. So the point here is that all this is telling us that the Lord is, yes, his energies are spread, but he's also personal. Yeah. And now the question comes up, then why? Why so many people think that the absolute truth is formless? Yeah, this question is answered in the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, text 10. Prabhupada explains that it is very difficult for a person who is very much materially affected. For such a person, it is very, very difficult to understand the Supreme Absolute Truth. Generally, people who are very, very attached to this bodily conception of life, it is very difficult for them to conceive that there is a transcendental body, which is Sat Chit Ananda, which is full of knowledge, which is full of bliss, and which is imperishable, which is eternal. Because day in, day out, in the materialistic concept, all the living entity is trained to hear and see and experience is that the body is perishing. Everybody is full of ignorance and completely miserable. So people generally, even when they are thinking of the Lord, keep the same idea in their mind. Same bodily concept idea, material bodily idea in mind. As soon as you talk that Lord has a personal form, and they think, oh, he has a body like us. So that's why they feel that no, Supreme cannot be personal. Yeah. So because they're so materially absorbed. Yeah. And because of this very reason, this whole concept that I will retain my original identity and I will have a personality. I'm an individual and I will have my personality after liberation from matter skates them. When you inform them that, oh, spiritual life is so personal and individual, this because they are so frustrated, as Prabhupada writes in this translation and purport, ignorance and frustration, they become afraid. They are afraid of becoming a person again. So when you are afraid of becoming a person again, what will your conception be? When you are afraid of having a separate identity and personality after liberation, and when you can only conceive and identify a material body and nothing else, when we talk about having a body, what do you think? What is the natural consequence?
Impersonalism.
Yes, impersonalism. Merge into God. Merge into this impersonal void. On Sundays in the morning, I have a Bhagavad Gita class that I try to teach. And this is for extended. My material bodily family and friends, from my relatives, some cousins and friends, and they all join this Bhagavad Gita class on Sundays in the morning. So there was one of my old classmate who joined. I didn't meet her for about 30 years, 25 years. And then she joined the class, and she is associated with this whole philosophy of impersonalism. She's so much into it, and she's associated with this, um, for those who know about this Puttaparthi, there's a place in South India, Bangalore, where Puttaparthi Sai Baba. So which the whole focus is impersonalism. Yeah. So when I was talking about and explaining about this, the personal form of the Lord, and just general talking about, what will happen, if you take up to the process of bhakti, that neha vikramanasosthi, or if you fully surrender to the Lord and purify yourself, then the Lord says, He'll take us back home, back to Godhead. Uh, and she was like, oh, forget about birth again, no more birth, don't even talk about it. Directly merging into the Lord only. This was the answer. Of course, she meant the Brahma Jyoti. So just, directly merging. For those of you who don't know, once Prabhupada's disciples went to him and said, how come all your disciples call you God? And he said, oh, I didn't tell them, they call me God. I never told them. But he also never denied. He never told them, no, I'm not. So many, 90% of the people have this misconception. Uh, uh, so the truth is that the Lord, absolute truth, is a person whose bodily effulgence is this impersonal Brahma Jyoti. And there's so many scriptural statements, as I said. So even in the Bhagavatam, in the beginning, first canto, second chapter, text 11, Prabhupada explains, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yagnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sadyate. Yeah. So this absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding. The Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These are and the common example that most of is about the sun, right? Sun also has three aspects, like the sunshine, the sun surface, and the sun planet itself. Yeah, and this Brahman is the impersonal, all-pervading Brahma Jyoti, which is actually the effulgence that is emanating from the transcendental body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, and like I just mentioned, it can be compared to the sunshine or the sun energy of the sun. So some people are just satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, and that sunshine pervades everywhere. The universal pervasiveness and the glaring effulgence of this impersonal nature, they are satisfied. As such, they are considered as the jnanis or the mental speculators. They can only realize up to this Brahman feature of the absolute truth. Yeah, many people have this difficulty in having this complete conception of the Lord. Yeah. Like another popular example that is given is when you see a mountain from far away, many miles away. What do you see? At the most, we may only be able to see the size and shape of the mountain. Yeah, this is considered like compared to the Brahman realization or Brahman understanding. As we move closer to the mountain, what happens? You can see some more of the mountain's characteristics. Yeah, the colors of the leaves maybe. Yeah, so you see a little more characteristics of that mountain, which is compared like to the Paramatma or the super soul realization within our hearts. Finally, when you actually arrive at the mountain, then you can explore so many things, the soil, the vegetation, the animals, the rivers, so many things. And this is compared to the Bhagavan understanding, yeah, or understanding God the person. Yeah, and that Bhagavan is the source of Brahman and Paramatma. So in that sense, yes, he's one with them. Yeah, but these are like the three phases of the absolute truth. Yeah, it's in many places, in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, also in the 16th text, it is explained, Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mam Upetya tu Kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Yeah. So from that highest planet, Brahmaloka in the material world, down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But Krishna says, one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Right? What does this mean? That he has a form. He's saying, you will not take birth again. Birth means you'll have to have a form. And he's saying, the absolute truth has a form. He resembles the humans, but it is not a material form. Yeah. So, but at least it tells you that you attain my abode. He's saying my abode. You will never take birth again. It clearly tells you. And the other point that I wanted to clarify, okay, we talk so much about personal, person, Lord is personal. Yeah. So that can also lead to another question. Do personality and form, don't they limit God when you just say he's personal, he has a form? What do you think? When you say, oh, he has a form, then that means we are limiting him. Yeah? So it is explained that, see, what causes limitation is not the form of the Lord, but not just form of the Lord, anything, In general, if you see in nature also, what causes limitation is not form, it is the matter that causes the limitation. Because of the very nature of matter, all material objects that you see are limited. There's a beginning and an end, whether it is size, whatever it is, right? So even if they don't have a form, even just matter means it is limited. But when we think of God's form, like I mentioned, majority of the times we subconsciously project our conceptions of matter on God, on the form of God. So that's how we think, one can think that a form would limit God. But as we have said again and again, and Prabhupada writes in the purport, God is not material. This is we try to put him in a box as per our mundane conception, but he is transcendental, he is spiritual, and the characteristics of spirit are different from matter. And that which is spiritual has the potential to be unlimited, irrespective of whether it has form or not. So, God's Lord being spiritual does not limit him. Yeah, spiritual realm means unlimited. He has a form and he's still unlimited. Yeah. So like this, through systematically, through proper logic and Vedic Shastric evidences, we can see that God is both personal as well as formless. And in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also it is explained, right? Brahmano hi pratishtaham, 27th text. Krishna says, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. Yeah. And yeah. Yes. What else I thought of saying? Yes, like the sunshine example that we gave, the sunshine expands all over the universe, but the source of the sunshine, which is the sun planet or the deity, is the basis of such radiation that is there in one place. Yeah, it is the sunshine that spreads. So same way, yeah, it's the impersonal Brahma Jyoti that spreads, but Lord is there. Yeah, he's the basis of that impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to actually try to share one text from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we can end. I think it is the 13th chapter. Text at 54 or 34. I think it is 54. Yes. Here, I think somewhere Prabhupada explains. Yes, the Supreme Lord, I'm sharing the screen. The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations, by vast intelligence, or even by such much hearing. He is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. I thought this was very wonderful. I was reading through this purport. As Prabhupada emphasizes in these words, that the Lord is both personal and impersonal, and that his form is transcendental, and it is not ordinary material form. And no matter how we look at it, ultimately, he is never formless. He is never a formless word, at least the absolute truth. Yeah. The perfect understanding is that Lord is both personal and impersonal simultaneously. But the original absolute truth is a person, and the impersonal emanation is a reflection of his transcendental body. Yeah. So I'll stop here. Sorry, it was a bit technical words. Even for me, was a challenge, but I hope it was useful. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I beg for forgiveness for any mistakes and request the Vaishnavas on the call to please correct. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak. Hare Krishna. I see Dronacharya Prabhu. Any corrections, Prabhu? Any comments, additions?
No, absolutely not, Prabhu. No, no, I enjoyed it very much. He said some of these verses are very technical, but you were able to extract the essence out of it very nicely. So I enjoyed the class. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
I
Krishna.
have a question. When we talk about personal relationship with God, we always say that God resides within us as a Paramatma. So that means it's a personal relationship with Him, right? That's what I want to clarify, that when we talk about personal relationship, or, so that He resides within us. So that means we have a relationship with Him. So it's very personal.
Yes.
Because we think about Him all the time.
Yes, of course. But as we just discussed, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti. So there are different stages of realization so there is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan realization. So the Brahman realization is to realize this, as we just discussed about this material creation, about the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, the transcendental effulgence from which everything is coming. Now, the second phase is the Paramatma realization, who is the Paramatma who is not just in your heart and my heart, but in every atom. Yeah. So yes, that realization, but it is only partial realization of the Lord. So the further step is to actually realize that the supreme absolute truth is a person, right? Yes, he expands himself as Paramatma into each and every living entity, each and every atom. Yeah, but further to that is to actually physically engage in a loving devotional service to that absolute personality of Godhead by engaging everything in service to the Lord. Yeah, when you have, there is no difference between that Supreme Lord and the Lord in the form of the deity. Yeah, so you can have a more personal relationship by, say, having deities at your home and every day offering whatever you make. Yeah, patram pushpam phalam thoyam, or whatever you make, of course, with vegetarian food without onion and garlic. You offer that food to the Lord and you accept the remnants as prasadam, and everything that you do, when you do it as a service to that Lord, yeah, you can have a more personal relationship with the deities in the temple, with the deities at your home, by nicely decorating them, by offering flowers, by offering a lamp, by offering water, by offering whatever uh, um, food you cook. Yeah, you follow me? So yes, what you said is right, but that is wonderful to realize that Lord is present in our heart. But for us to fully realize and be able to see that Paramatma in our heart, which is so fully conditioned and contaminated right now, we need to engage in this process of hearing, chanting, and engaging in personal devotional service to the Lord. To physically engage our senses, all our five senses, our mind, in the service to the Lord. You follow? That is a more personal relationship. Does that make sense? Did we lose her?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, I got disconnected at the last moment. I'm sorry. But yes, I do understand exactly what you mean. So, yeah, the realization is there definitely. And obviously, offering him all whatever we eat before we eat, we offer him. So that makes us more connected with him for sure. So, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Right, Dronacharya Prabhu, any corrections, additions to that?
No, Prabhu. I think it's very, very clear. A lot of it comes down to what we're willing to give in our lives, because Krishna is willing to reciprocate on his side. Of course, he's not obliged to; he's not forced to, but he he wants our love more than we can possibly know. And if our relationship wants to be impersonal with him, he'll also manifest that aspect of himself just to just to accommodate our desire. At a certain point in our lives, we have to really seek out the Lord within the heart and pray sincerely to the Lord. I want a relationship with you. I may not know how to have a relationship with you, but please teach me how to have a relationship with you. Please send me the proper guides, the devotees that can help me, show me how to have a relationship. And in that way, Krishna becomes manifest to us. But it's fascinating to me how no matter how we want to interact with Krishna, Krishna creates the situation. But in one sense, and in that way, he's never really lost to us. Even when we're covered over in the material energy, Krishna has arranged that situation for us as well. Anyway, they're just some thoughts, Prabhu, that I have.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes, to the degree we surrender, to that degree he reveals himself to us. Any other comments, corrections? No? So then we can end the session here then. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak. Srimad Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prananath Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.